You just found a beach house in California for under $400,000. No, this isn't 1995. This is happening right now, November 2025, and nobody's talking about it. While everyone's obsessing over Malibu and Santa Monica, there's a parallel California coast that most people don't even know exists. Places where you can still walk to the beach from a house you actually own, where your mortgage doesn't require selling a kidney first. I spent 3 months researching every coastal town from the Oregon border to Mexico, pulled data housing from 12 different sources, talked to locals who've been living the beach life for decades without trust funds. What I found changes everything you thought you knew about California real estate. But here's the thing most real estate channels won't tell you. Affordability in California is relative. We're not talking Midwest prices. We're talking places where you might actually qualify for a mortgage without 6 roommates and a side hustle. Towns where $600,000 gets you an actual house, not a parking spot. The catch? Some of these spots are foggy. Some are remote. Some are rebuilding from natural disasters. But if you want coastal California without the Kardashian price tag, these are your options, and the window's closing faster than you think. Let me show you the 10 towns that still make sense, starting with the one that sounds too good to be true. Eureka sits in the Redwood Empire, about as far north as you can get before hitting Oregon. Victorian mansions line the streets. The harbor's packed with fishing boats, and homes here averaged $420,000 last time the data updated. That's not a typo. The town rebuilt itself after the timber industry crashed. Now it runs on healthcare, education, and people who discovered they could work remotely from one of the most beautiful, forgotten corners of California. Old Town Eureka feels like stepping back 60 years. Antique shops, local breweries, and waterfront restaurants where locals actually eat. But here's what nobody mentions about Eureka. It's cold, like sweater in July cold. The Pacific keeps temperatures in the low 60s most of the year. Fog rolls in thick. You're trading California sunshine for something that feels more like the Pacific Northwest. Some people love it. Some people last 3 months and bail. The bigger issue, jobs. Unless you work remotely or in healthcare at St. Joseph Hospital, opportunities are limited. The economy here moves slow. But if you can make your own income, you're buying coastal California at a 60% discount compared to anywhere south of San Francisco. Crime's higher than you'd expect in a small town. Parts of Eureka struggle, but neighborhoods like Sequoia Park and Henderson Center stay quiet and family-friendly. You just need to know where to look. Drive 20 minutes north of Eureka and you hit Arcata, home to Humboldt State University, which gives the town its personality. Students, professors, hippies, and outdoor fanatics all mixed together. Median home price hovers around $410,000. The university brings culture you don't usually find in small coastal towns. Music venues, farmers markets, bookshops that actually survive. Mad River Beach and Humboldt Bay sit minutes away. The redwoods start at the edge of town. Arcata leans progressive. Cannabis culture runs deep here. If that's not your scene, you'll notice. The town has that Northern California vibe where everyone knows everyone, and newcomers either fit in or they don't. Housing stock's older, many homes need work, but you're buying into a community that chose this life. People in Arcata aren't here because they couldn't afford Santa Cruz. They're here because they prefer it. Schools rank decently. The town feels safe. You can bike everywhere. If you want small-town coastal living with a college-town twist, Arcata delivers. Just pack warm clothes. 20 miles from the Oregon border, Crescent City exists in its own universe. The town was flattened by a tsunami in 1964, then rebuilt from scratch. Now it's a quiet fishing community with beaches that stretch forever. Median home prices sit around $356,000. Battery Point Lighthouse sits on a little island you can walk to at low tide. The harbor is filled with boats catching Dungeness crab. Pebble Beach and Kellogg Beach offer actual solitude, something you won't find on most California beaches anymore. But Crescent City is isolated. 3.5 hours to the nearest real city. 2 hours to anywhere with a Target. You're choosing remoteness here. For some people, that's the whole point. For others, it's a deal breaker. Weather's cool and wet. Redwood National Park starts right at the edge of town, which means you're in one of the foggiest, rainiest parts of California. Summer days might hit 65 degrees. The ocean never gets warm enough for swimming without a wetsuit. Cost of living runs below the national average, which is rare for California. If you're retired, work remotely, or can survive on limited local jobs, Crescent City offers coastal California for less than what most people pay for rent in Los Angeles. Drop down to the Central Coast and you hit Morro Bay. That giant rock in the water? That's Morro Rock, a volcanic plug that's become the town's trademark. Homes here averaged around $965,000 last year, which sounds expensive, until you realize neighboring towns like San Luis Obispo and Pismo Beach run $200,000 higher. The harbor is filled with sea otters. Fishing boats unload their catch every morning. Downtown's walkable, with local restaurants serving the freshest seafood you'll find anywhere. The Embarcadero runs along the waterfront, lined with shops and kayak rentals. Morro Bay weather stays mild year-round. It's California's version of perfect. Not too hot, not too cold. You can actually spend time outside in the middle of summer without melting. The downside? Prices are climbing. The town's been discovered by people leaving the Bay Area and Los Angeles. What used to be a sleepy fishing village now has weekend traffic. But compared to most Central Coast towns, Morro Bay still offers value. The community skews older. Retirees and artists dominate. If you're looking for nightlife or career opportunities, look elsewhere. But if you want that classic California coastal town experience without the chaos of more famous spots, Morro Bay checks every box. Wildfire risk sits higher here than northern towns. Climate data shows the area faces increasing heat risk over the next 30 years, something to factor into your decision. Head south to San Diego County, and most beach towns price out normal humans. Except Imperial Beach, the furthest south you can go in California before hitting Mexico. Median homes sold for around $895,000 recently, which sounds high until you compare it to nearby Coronado at $2.5 million. IB, as locals call it, has legit surf culture. The pier's a local landmark. The boardwalk keeps expanding. You can see Tijuana from the beach. The Hispanic community runs deep here, giving the town a cultural richness you don't find in more sanitized beach communities. But Imperial Beach faces challenges. It's literally next to the border, and the Tijuana River sewage problem affects the beach during certain times of year. When pollution's bad, the water is off limits. San Diego's been working on solutions for years, but it's still an issue. Home prices dropped recently, down about $41,000 year over year. That could mean opportunity or warning sign, depending on your perspective. The town's improving infrastructure and building out more amenities. Some investors see it as a smart play. Others worry about environmental issues. If you work in San Diego proper, IB offers beach access without the insane downtown prices. Commute times vary depending on traffic, but you're close to everything the city offers.
Schools need improvement. Crime's moderate, but the community's tight. People who live in IB defended fiercely. They chose the less polished beach town for good reasons. Back up to Ventura County and you hit Oxnard. Population 200,000, which makes it an actual city, not a small beach town. But with median home prices around $587,000, it's one of the more affordable ways to get beach access in Southern California. Oxnard's got working beaches. These aren't postcard beaches lined with tourists. They're beaches where locals surf, fish, and let their kids run around. Hollywood Beach, Silver Strand, and Mandalay Beach all offer different vibes. The city's big enough to have actual job opportunities: agriculture, distribution, healthcare. Oxnard's not a retirement town or tourist trap. It's a functioning city that happens to be on the coast. Downtown needs work. Some neighborhoods struggle with crime, but areas like River Park and Northwest Oxnard stay family-friendly and well-maintained. As with any larger city, location matters. The major selling point? You're 30 minutes from both Santa Barbara and Los Angeles. You get beach living with access to two of California's biggest job markets. For people who need to commute occasionally, that flexibility matters. Oxnard doesn't have the charm of smaller towns on this list. It's more suburban sprawl than picturesque fishing village. But if you need affordability, beach access, and actual employment options, Oxnard delivers. And speaking of Ventura, it sits right next door to Oxnard but feels completely different. Downtown Ventura has that classic California beach town energy. Surf shops, boutiques, restaurants with patios, the pier, the promenade, the mission, it all works. Homes in Ventura averaged around $864,000 recently, putting it in the middle range for this list. You're paying more than Oxnard, but less than most comparable Central Coast towns. Ventura gets 272 days of sunshine annually. The weather is what people imagine when they think California. Warm, but not hot. Perfect for spending every weekend outside. The town has 32 parks and over 800 acres of green space. The schools rank well, the culture mixes old California with modern amenities. You can still feel the town's history while having access to everything contemporary families need. Ventura Harbor offers fishing, kayaking, and boat rentals. Channel Islands National Park sits just offshore. You can day trip to the islands for hiking and wildlife viewing, then be back home for dinner. The downside? Everyone wants to live here. Competition for houses stays fierce. Homes sell fast. You need to be ready to move quickly, with financing lined up and flexibility on negotiations. But for people who want that quintessential Southern California beach experience without paying Los Angeles prices, Ventura remains one of the best options. Over on the peninsula below San Francisco, you'll find Half Moon Bay. Homes averaged around $1.6 million recently, which sounds expensive, but it's actually one of the cheaper options anywhere near the Bay Area. The town has legitimate charm. Pumpkin patches line the roads, flower farms bloom year-round. Downtown Half Moon Bay keeps that small-town feel despite proximity to San Jose and San Francisco. Maverick's Surf Break sits just north of town, world-class big-wave surfing that brings professionals from everywhere. Even if you don't surf, watching the waves during winter storms feels biblical. But Half Moon Bay stays foggy and cool. The coast here doesn't get that warm California sun people expect. It's more moody and atmospheric. Some people find it romantic, others just find it cold. The commute to Silicon Valley or San Francisco takes about 45 minutes to an hour without traffic. Tech workers have been moving here steadily, driving prices up. But compared to living in San Francisco or Palo Alto, Half Moon Bay offers space and nature at a discount. Agriculture still drives part of the local economy. This isn't purely a bedroom community. The town maintains its own identity separate from the cities it sits between. South of Monterey, you find Seaside. Not to be confused with the tiny Oregon town, this Seaside sits in the shadow of its famous neighbor, but costs hundreds of thousands less. Median homes around $798,000 versus over $1.2 million in Monterey itself. You're less than 5 miles from Monterey's world-famous aquarium, Cannery Row, and all the tourist attractions, but you live in a quieter, more residential community. You get all the benefits without the crowds and prices. The beaches here stay less packed than Monterey or Carmel. Locals know where to go. Monterey Bay spreads out in front of you with the same views the expensive towns have. Seaside's more diverse and working class than neighboring communities. It has more of a real town feel rather than tourist destination energy. Some people prefer that authenticity. Schools vary by area. The town's actively investing in improvements. Fort Ord National Monument borders Seaside, offering trails and open space for hiking and mountain biking. If you want the Monterey Peninsula experience, but can't justify the premium pricing, Seaside makes sense. You're choosing value and authenticity over prestige, and some buyers consider that a win. Way up north again, Fort Bragg sits on the Mendocino coast. Famous for Glass Beach, where decades of dumping smooth glass into colorful pebbles. Also famous for dramatic bluffs, pine forests, and moody coastline. Homes here average around $618,000. This is as far from Southern California beach culture as you can get while staying in the state. Fort Bragg feels more like the Pacific Northwest. Cool, misty, forested. The coast is rugged, not sandy. The town rebuilt its economy after the lumber mills closed. Now it runs on tourism, retirees, and remote workers who discovered they could live somewhere stunning if they didn't need local employment. Noyo Harbor offers fishing, whale watching, and seafood restaurants serving whatever boats brought in that morning. The skunk train runs through the redwoods, giving you touristy things to do when family visits. But Fort Bragg is isolated. 3 hours to San Francisco, no major hospital nearby. You're choosing to live away from everything. For some buyers, especially retirees or people done with city life, that isolation feels like peace. For others, it feels like risk. The community is small and tight-knit. Everyone knows everyone. Newcomers get noticed. If you want anonymity, this isn't it. If you want community and natural beauty, Fort Bragg delivers. So here's what the data actually tells us. You can still find coastal California under $500,000 if you're willing to go far north and accept cooler weather. You can find it under $700,000 if you're flexible on location and community size. You can find it under $900,000 in places close to major job markets if you're strategic. But every single one of these towns requires trade-offs. There's no perfect, affordable beach town in California. If there was, it wouldn't be affordable anymore. The North Coast towns offer the best pure value, but the worst weather and isolation. The Central Coast towns balance price and quality of life, but they're heating up fast. The South Bay options near Dandigo give you big city access, but environmental concerns. The smartest buyers aren't looking for perfection, they're looking for the trade-offs they can live with. The couple who works remotely and loves foggy weather? Eureka might be perfect. The family in Ventura? They're paying more than they'd like, but less than they would anywhere closer to LA, and their kids go to good schools. Also happy. The retiree in Morro Bay? He sold his Bay Area home, bought in Morro Bay, pocketed the difference, and spends his days kayaking. Definitely happy. Affordable is relative, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. These 10 towns prove you can still buy coastal California in 2026 if you're willing to be strategic. You just can't be picky about every detail. The question isn't whether perfect affordable beach towns exist. They don't. The question is which imperfect affordable beach town matches your specific needs and trade-offs. Figure that out, and you might be living on the California coast sooner than you think, while everyone else is still convincing themselves they need to save another decade. Now, here's what happens next. If you found this research useful, subscribe to Discover Cities. We dig into housing markets, cost of living, and quality of life data for cities across the country. No fluff, just the information you need to make smart decisions about where to live. We've got deep dives coming on the Pacific Northwest, mountain towns, and mid-sized cities that are absorbing people leaving the coasts. Places where your money still stretches and quality of life stays high. Hit that subscribe button, because the housing market keeps shifting, and the people who move fast with the best information win. Simple as that.